Hello and welcome back to the Squirrel Heed YouTube channel. I'm a bit late with the UFC predictions. I'm going to try and fire through some of these. I'm not going to spend too much time, not a great in-depth of analysis. I want to, I've done a lot of long videos lately. I want to try and get through these as quickly as I can with hopefully some good points to make as well. Obviously, I want to touch on Jon Jones straight away. I'm quite glad I didn't make the video earlier on last week when I was supposed to, because then I'd obviously have to remake it with Jon Jones now not taking part. Apparently in the works is Daniel Cormier is going to be staying on the card. The rumour is that Gustafsson has his bags packed, he is ready to fly out, and he can step in and he can take that fight. That would seem like the most likely one I could think of. Not entirely sure who else I could think of. There's rumour. I think at some point on Twitter, Bisping had put his name in the hat as well, which would be really interesting. He used to fight at 205 many years ago when he was on Ultimate Fighter 3. But I think the Gustafsson fight, if you're going to keep Cormier on the card, that would make more sense. Jon Jones, I mean, it's iffy, right? Because if he's done for PEDs and stuff like that, and it's not just something like where he's been done for like cocaine or whatever, or marijuana in the past, if it is PEDs, it throws up a lot of questions, which is why I'm not criticising him straight away. Because on the exact same card, we have a fighter who has been given special treatment of having an exemption from USADA testing completely. And it looks like he's been given, I think it's something like 4 months worth of freedom from USADA testing, so he can come into this fight. And we're talking about Brock Lesnar. So he can come in, do this fight, because the UFC needed Brock Lesnar more than Brock Lesnar needed the UFC, with the Conor McGregor fight obviously falling on its arse and McGregor pretty much doing whatever he wanted, and that fight is now lost. With that fight if that had stayed on the card, losing the Jon Jones fight wouldn't have been such a big deal. But anyway, I think on Jon Jones' part, he's come out and he's said in a press conference or something that he was quite teary and everything like that, and he was obviously quite upset by it all, and that did he know what was going on, and it was sort of like, it was quite vague, not the most straightforward. I didn't watch the whole thing because it was just awkward to watch. But if it comes down to him saying something like, all MMA fighters seem to say, the very few that do hold their hands up, you do have to respect them a little bit, but the ones that always turn around and say, well, I was given this supplement, right, and I don't know, my coaches said it was all good, so, and I trust my coaches are my family, blah, 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 blah. Professional athletes, no matter what they're taking, eating, drinking, anything, professional athlete, doesn't matter if they're a fighter, if a footballer, or if they're a CrossFitter, or a bodybuilder, whatever kind of athlete that you're looking at, that sole person is responsible for what is going in their body. Doesn't matter if they're given it by someone. You don't just, even if you trust that person 100%, you got to look at as well in America, for the the little things that I do know about supplementation and stuff like that. Over in America, I think in the UK, it's a little bit more stringent. Everything that comes over here has to be tested or something like that, and has to be approved. Not entirely concrete on that. Some people might, have some comments on that. Please do share them so we can all educate ourselves. But over in America, it's a bit looser as far as I'm aware. There's things like pre-workouts and stuff like that. They can have things in them that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be in a pre-workout. Same with proteins. We assume that proteins and stuff like that are, that's what they are. It's a protein. It's going to help you recover, get ready for your next workouts, training sessions, fights, or whatever you do. You can't, us, general public, we can kind of go along with that. I'm not going to be stepping in and facing a monster on the other side of the cage, or a boxing ring, or whatever. So me just going down to the gym, lifting some weights, whatever, that's fine. These guys are in the biggest MMA organization of all time since it started. This is the original. And even the other ones, Bellator and such like that, they are on platforms, they are on TV, they're on social media all over the place. As soon as something like this happens, it blows up, and it blows up everywhere, and it makes it just, at the end of the day, they are responsible for what they put in their bodies, and if they are not checking and they're not thorough enough, we've seen this enough in athletics and other different sports where people are being banned left, right and centre. you have to be intelligent enough as an athlete to make sure that what is going in your body is 100% in compliance with the rules that are set for your chosen sport or your chosen discipline, whatever. That is the cut and dry of it. And if you haven't done that, nobody should really have any sympathy for you. It's just how it goes. Anyway, let's move on. Kicking off with prelims, Jim Miller, Takanori Gomi. Gomi's been around for years. Jim Miller's been around for years. Jim Miller is a personal favourite of mine. He's an absolute animal. His jiu-jitsu game is ridiculous. If he gets you down on the ground, he can tie you up in knots. Same thing can be said on the opposite side of Takanori Gomi. He does have, if he can land it, he has absolute dynamite in his fists. Which way would I see this going? Well, we can look at all the stats all we want to, but at the end of the day, for me, I think I have to go with Jim Miller because Jim Miller is relentless. Now, it looks like, obviously, you've got to look at the stackedness of this card. That is why I would say he's on the early Fight Pass prelims. Otherwise, I think he'd be a little bit higher. Regardless of that, though, I think Jim Miller will take this by submission in the second round because he's so relentless. Takanori Gomi is very hit and miss, and he has been hit and miss since he came into the UFC. I think he's sometimes rode his luck with losing streaks and come out with a knockout and then bang, it saved his position. I think with the relentless style that Jim Miller's got, I think Jim Miller's going to take it second round sub. Moving swiftly on to Gegard Mousasi versus Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos, not a fighter I know a great deal about, we'll be totally honest about that. Let's look at Mousasi. He's got a hell of a record, 38-6-2. He had a lot of experience fighting at the highest levels as well, but sometimes doesn't make it into the bigger fights. This isn't a high pressure fight in my opinion, even though he is ranked number 8. I think that this is a fight that will come down to Mousasi's experience, and I do think that he will. While the other guy, like as I say, I don't know the guy very well. I don't know the guy at all, let's be honest. I don't know Thiago Santos at all. He's ranked in at number 15, but he does have a pretty good record, 13-3. Which way could it go? By going by pure experience, I'd have to go with Mousasi. It depends what Mousasi turns up though, because sometimes he looks like he can't be arsed. He really does look like he can't be arsed. Other times he can look like he's on fire and he will just catch people. So I would have to go with Mousasi, but I'm not sure on how it will actually go down. So I can't really give a round prediction or anything like that, but I do think that Mousasi will win the fight. This is a fight that I'm looking forward to a great deal. Diego the Nightmare Sanchez, Joe Lauzon. I'm looking forward to this fight so much. These two. Sanchez, you could hit him with a house. It's unbelievable how much punishment he can take. Lauzon at the same time, depending on what he comes out with, when he comes out with that relentless style and he's on you all the time, he's just relentless, will not stop. It's like a Terminator, right? He will not stop. It could go either way. Sanchez would never ever see him getting knocked out. He just takes punishment and ends up with a face that looks like a burnt pizza. It's just like he comes out with cuts all over his face, but it doesn't matter. First round he'll come out and he'll be trying to launch your head into the furthest row. Second, do the exact same. Third, do the exact same. And if he had a fourth or fifth, he'd be trying to do the exact same again. I think because based on pure styles, I think that Lauzon's going to win. I think it's actually going to go down to a decision though, because Sanchez is so hard to actually take out of there, unless Joe Lauzon manages to get him to the ground, maybe do some submission work there. That's going to be very difficult as well, because Sanchez is well versed there. We just don't see it these days. I think it's going to go to decision, but I think it'll be a unanimous decision to Joe Lauzon. But an entertaining fight. This could be a sleeper for one of the fights of the night. We've got Sage Northcutt versus Enrique Marin. Now, obviously Sage Northcutt, he looks like the poster boy for modern MMA. You know, he's got the shredded looks. He's got the good looks in his face as well. Coming up against a guy who looks like he would rip his head off. Is this going to be the fight that gets Northcutt back on track and gets him back elevated up to the where he was hyped up to in the beginning? Possibly. He's really going to have to do some... he's going to have to concentrate, obviously, because he's coming up against a guy that's most likely looking to sub him, who doesn't have any KOs or TKOs. So you quite clearly see what the game plan would be for Enrique Marin. What could happen? I'm not entirely sure. I've not seen a great deal of both fighters. I've not been back and looked at Northcutt's fights. He's had some impressive moments. He's had some mediocre moments as well. It could really derail. It depends, again, how these fighters come out. If it goes to the floor, who's going to be more successful where. But I do think this is where Northcutt will get his career back on track. I think he'll end up getting with a TKO, and it'll be in the 3rd round. Moving on to TJ Dillashaw and Rafael Assunção, looking at 1st and 3rd in their respective division. Now, this is a very interesting fight because obviously Dillashaw is going to be looking to want to basically get the title shot right away. Assunção will be looking to maybe overthrow Dillashaw's position and maybe take the next title shot from there. Who knows what the ramifications of this could be. However, I do think that this is going to be a very entertaining fight, especially for Dillashaw wanting to prove a point, Assunção wanting to overthrow. Which way is it going to go? For me, I think Assunção is going to be wanting to look more to take it to the ground, which is going to be very, very difficult against the wrestling style of Dillashaw or the wrestling background of Dillashaw. Dillashaw, on the other hand, such a versatile fighter. We've seen that in the past when he won the title as well. Which way could it go? I think it's going to go TJ Dillashaw's way. I don't think it's going to be a very comfortable fight for either. And I don't know. It's either going to be a back and forth fight or it's going to be pretty one-sided. I do see it coming down to a decision, and it'll be a unanimous decision for TJ Dillashaw. Moving on to Johny Hendricks versus Kelvin Gastelum. You got guys that hit like trucks and love doing it. Almost similar sort of record, 17-4 for Hendricks, 12-2 for Gastelum. This could be an explosive fight, and it could be over like that, or it could take a while. You're never entirely sure really what's going to happen. Hendricks has drifted back a little bit away from the title picture since he had the title. Can he get back there with this one? I'm not entirely sure. I think Gastelum could be the type of fighter that could just end up clipping him, and that could be lights out. He's got a longer reach. I'm a bit torn on it myself. Obviously, they are the same height. Obviously, almost a similar reach, but Gastelum got a pretty. I think looking at it, Hendricks really has to come out, and he has to come out with fire. He has to come out like a truck and just smash into him. If he doesn't do that, this is where he could become unstuck. I'm not entirely sure which way it's going to go, so it literally is a flip of the coin. I think that Gastelum is going to derail the big rig, and it'll be in the 2nd round. Kat Zingano versus Juliana Pena. Don't know if I'm saying that right. Apologies. Seems I can't say football players' names. I can't say MMA fighters' names. Whoops. So, 2 fighters that I will be absolutely honest, I've not seen a great deal of personally myself. It's not that I avoid their fights. I think that some of the fight that I have seen of Kat Zingano have been quite entertaining. Pena, I'm not sure. I don't actually know if I have seen her fight. So literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through the statistics we've got on the website right here and just try and make a bit of an informed decision based on that. So obviously we're looking at Zingano, who obviously has overcome an injury that kept her out for quite a while. So obviously with Zingano, the first thing that stands out to me is the KO-TKO ratio, and then subs and then decisions. Clearly likes to go for the KO or the TKO a lot more often than any of the other methods, as well as looking at the accuracy that she has down below, 72.82% of her shots land, which is quite an unreal one when you compare it opposite 47.93. Seems to have a bit of a better defense as well, and also has 100% takedown accuracy, which could be absolutely key in this type of fight. However, we do have to then look at Pena, who has 50% of her wins have been subs. So, so if Zingano manages to take her down to the ground, is she gonna have to ground and pound her way in? And if that doesn't work, is she gonna leave herself open to the submission style or the submission finish here? And also possibly, because the KO-TKO ratio for Juliana Pena isn't too bad either, sitting at 38% currently. Who knows? It is a complete toss-up. I think purely for experience, I think purely from a statistical viewpoint, I think that Zingano will take this one. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight, and I think I am again looking at I think it'll be more of a split decision, this one. I do see this one going all the way and going to a split decision in favour just of Kat Zingano. Now, of the main card, I'm not entirely sure which way around these are going to go, but I'm assuming it's going to go Velasquez, Browne, Aldo, Edgar, Tate, Nunes, and Lesnar versus Hunt. Obviously, now that we're missing the DC and Bones match, but I assume that at some point, Daniel Cormier, if he's staying on the card, that match will get slotted in there somewhere.
Speaking of which, there has now been a fight added with Daniel Cormier onto the card, and it is going to be Daniel Cormier versus Anderson Silva, which is an intriguing fight anyway. Obviously, Anderson Silva being the absolute legend that he is, but very much on the wane these days. Not the absolute dominating fighter, the electric fighter that he was since he was dicking around with Chris Weidman and such like that. Daniel Cormier looking like he can ragdoll pretty much everybody, and I do actually see that that's how this is going to go. I don't think Anderson Silva's going to have a good time in there. We've seen how Anderson Silva has struggled with wrestlers in the past. Cormier is a good enough wrestler to ragdoll Anderson Silva, and Anderson Silva doesn't seem to have that invincibility about him anymore. That's gone a long time ago, and I do think Daniel Cormier is going to take this pretty comfortably. I can see Daniel Cormier pulling out a TKO win, and it'll either be in the first or second round. That's how I see that one finishing.
Now, Cain Velasquez versus Travis Happer Browne. Cain Velasquez, absolutely excited to see him back in the octagon because he's an absolute machine. We've seen how in the past he's destroyed Dos Santos numerous times. He's not necessarily going to knock someone out. Obviously, we can go back and look at when he TKO'd Brock Lesnar for his first title win, but we'll come on to stuff like that a little bit later on, with good reason. Cain Velasquez is a machine. He just doesn't stop. Now, as I said earlier, Lauzon, Terminator. Now, this guy is the literal definition of the cyborg. He is almost, if he comes out like he has done in the past, obviously improved version, looking at having changed his training methods and things like that to make sure that he can stay perhaps injury free, which is the key thing here, because the problem that I've got with Velasquez is that he can come out and he'll beast a fight and then bang, he's out having to have another surgery and he's out for 8 to 10 months, something like that, and you don't see him. I'd love to see him get a bit more consistency in the octagon. We can start seeing that entertaining fighting style that he has, because he's a beast of a wrestler. He's a beast of a puncher. There's no part of his game that really has a great deal of weakness. Obviously, we can look as well. He's been caught in the past by Dos Santos and been knocked out cold in 54 seconds. But he's an amazing fighter, and I just cannot wait to see him back in. Travis Browne, again though, is an entertaining fighter as well, and this is why I'm so excited for this fight, because I just think it's going to be fireworks. Straight away, we can ignore the submission and the decision statistics right there, because if you look at the KO and TKO statistics, Velasquez, 85%, Travis Browne, 78%. So you can see straight away where this fight is probably going to take place. It's either going to be on the feet, or Velasquez is going to use his takedowns and dump him on the floor and maybe do some ground and pound. Problem with that, though, is that you have to look at the takedown defense of Travis Browne. Look at sitting at 83%, which isn't, it depends upon the caliber of wrestler he's come up against in the past. Is it going to be of that frantic work rate nature that Cain Velasquez is, or is it more of a grinder? Depends totally on that one. I actually, though, I would prefer to see this fight take place on the feet, and I think that is where it's going to be. The problem that you've got for Velasquez, and I've talked a lot about Velasquez, I'm not disrespecting Travis Browne. Travis Browne has a lot more height, and he has a bit more reach than Velasquez. Now, is he then going to be able to play off that, or is Velasquez going to have to try and move inside? But then you come up against the knees and the Muay Thai of Travis Browne. It's going to be it's a really close one to call. It really is, depending on how Velasquez is coming back in. Obviously, he hasn't dropped a lot in the rankings either. So, looking at it all, I would like Velasquez to win, because I like the fighter. I like his style. I think he might come unstuck that evening, and he will, in my opinion, come unstuck, unfortunately, against Travis Browne. I don't think it's going to be a knockout. I do see it being a decision, but it's going to be a destructive decision in favour of Travis Browne. Moving on to the interim featherweight title fight. Jose Aldo, number 1, Number 2, Frankie Edgar. And this will be complicated to predict, but a very entertaining fight in my opinion. Frankie Edgar is just relentless, absolutely relentless, and an entertaining fighter. People say he's not entertaining because he's gone to so many different decisions when he was the title holder, when he wasn't the title holder, but he has it in him. We've seen him do it to Gray Maynard, where he, in I think their third fight, and he knocked him out in the 4th round or the start of the 5th round. Not entirely sure, can't remember. And he's got fantastic wrestling. He's fluid in all of his movements. He can transition quite quickly from striking to working the ground game as well, which is completely something that Aldo does seem to struggle with. Obviously, Aldo wanting to make more of an impact than he did in the Conor McGregor fight. Obviously, nobody ever saw, well, I don't think anybody saw, but some people might have. I didn't see Jose Aldo getting knocked out within 13 seconds. It happens. I don't think that will really affect Jose Aldo in this fight. He's still going to try and fight exactly how he does. We've got to look at the takedown accuracy of Frankie Edgar compared to the takedown defense of Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo, 91.25% of his takedowns, or takedowns done to him, he defends. Frankie Edgar's only got 38% takedowns accuracy, so that's takedowns achieved. However, it's the way that he does takedowns is the relentless thing. He won't just necessarily try the one. He will keep going and will try and blow through you before, and he will not give up. And this is the thing that I love about this fight. Both fighters, I don't think, would give up. Obviously, unless someone gets knocked out, which I don't really see happening, I'll be honest with you. I see Frankie Edgar not playing it safe. I don't think, because Frankie Edgar, in my opinion, doesn't play it safe. He will, obviously, he's got that great footwork with the boxing as well. However, he's going to come up against someone who could literally soccer kick, he could probably soccer kick a brick wall down. He's got stupid kicks as Jose Aldo. He's got powerful kicks as well as good hands as well. Has he got as good hands as Edgar? No, not in my opinion. But he can use all of his limbs better than Edgar can use like his legs as well, using the kicks and stuff like that as well. How do I see it going down? Iffy. Obviously, Jose Aldo has the bigger KO percentage that over Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar tends to, if it goes to a decision, come out on the better end of it. I don't see it going to decision. And I'm going to be bold, and I do think that Frankie Edgar is going to take this. I think it's going to be via TKO in the final round. An entertaining fight. I cannot wait for that one. Moving on to title fight. Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes, even in this picture right here, looks like she wants to murder me. So goodness knows what she wants to do to Miesha Tate. Now, looking straight away at the statistics, and I know statistics, I did say at the start I wasn't going to use statistics very much, but they are proving quite helpful, because you look at that KO ratio for Amanda Nunes compared to Miesha Tate. Miesha Tate's quite spread out. Obviously, she's got 17% KO TKO, 39% subs, 44% decisions. I think that Nunes is going to be coming out like on fire, wanting to get this fight done, and I think she's obviously going to be looking to do it in a KO TKO style. Tate, on the other hand, I think will be looking to grind it out, use the groundwork, and also maybe look for submissions and things like that. So it's going to be, I think, it's basically going to be a matchup of styles. Who's going to come out more, the wrestler or the striker? I think Miesha Tate, in her specialist skills she's got with the wrestling and things like that, I think she can actually nullify, if she can get inside and get the fight down to the ground. And obviously the takedown defense of Nunes isn't the best. It is 60%, but it's not the best. Then, and she's also got a higher submission average as well. I do think that like Miesha Tate will get this to the ground and start just working and working and working. And this will go one of two ways if that happens. It'll either go to decision and it'll be a grind out, just like standard wrestling grind out, or it'll be a submission in favour of Miesha Tate. And that's how I see it going. Obviously, there is the chance that can happen with everyone, the puncher's chance, as they call it, that she could get clipped and knocked out. there's always that chance. But the more realistic one in my mind is that she's gonna keep her championship, and in my opinion, it will go to decision. That submission could come, but I do think it's going to end in decision. Now, moving on to our main event, our new main event, which is Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. Now, I'm a WWE fan. I really am. The Beast Incarnate, unbelievable character in WWE. Let's not forget, though, how Brock Lesnar's career ended. Yes, he suffered from the diverticulitis. Totally not ignoring that whatsoever. And apparently he's now 100%. He was only ever functioning at maybe 70 or 80% in fights. However, I can't ignore the fact that when he's come up against even the likes, when he was coming up against, when he came up against, I don't think anyone will ever forget him coming out UFC 116, him versus Shane Carwin, and Shane Carwin, if that was a different referee, that would have been a totally different story to Brock Lesnar's career. If that was a different referee, they would have stopped that fight. They absolutely would have stopped that fight, because there was no way, if you go back in the day and this was going to be one of those fights that had no rounds, it ends when it ends, or it's just 15 straight minutes, that fight would have been over and it would have been stopped, and Brock Lesnar would not be, he would not have retained the title that night at all. No way. But because of the referee that it was, they let it go, and he recovered a bit, got to the second round, and Shane Carwin gassed. And he got the arm triangle choke, and it was a legendary victory, and Brock Lesnar was viewed as brilliant. Problem I've got with that, though, is this Lesnar still going to be afraid of being punched in the face? Because if he is coming up against the wrong guy. He is being put up against the wrong guy. And I know that he's like come out and said that he doesn't want to take easy fights or anything like that. This isn't an easy fight. Yes, let's look at it from obviously the wrestling perspective of Lesnar. Lesnar, not the best striker, unless he's been working on some stuff like that's going to turn out a miracle and he's all of a sudden a super striker and a super wrestler. If he has to come out like he came out against Heath Herring and Frank Mir as well, he has to come out like an absolute machine, like he's been shot out of a cannon. He has to come out like that, because if he doesn't and he tries to like do that like weird sort of sidestepping punch it like thing like this that he was doing with his jabbing hand, if he comes out and does stuff like that, that's Hunt's game, and Hunt will end it so quickly. If he comes out like a steam train and he gets Mark Hunt to the floor, and then that's getting him to the floor as well. If he can get him to the floor, this is Lesnar's fight. Obviously, I'm talking quite obvious things here. These are very obvious things. We're talking wrestler versus striker. This is just how it's going to be. In my point of view, I think Mark Hunt is going to take it. Now, why do I think Mark Hunt's going to take it? Because I think that Lesnar, I can't say that he's been naive, and I can't also say that all of this hasn't been in his favour either. Obviously, Mark Hunt finding out quite late. How long did Lesnar know? How long has Lesnar been training? Has Lesnar been allowing people in training to punch him in the face? Because I think that was one of the reports last time, when he was last in MMA, is that he wasn't allowing people to punch him in the face. Or there was something issue. If you come and spar with Brock Lesnar, you can't punch him in the face. And we saw how that ended up against Cain Velasquez. When Cain Velasquez started punching him, and there's that legendary backward roll that happened and stuff like that, because he's backing up that much, he couldn't take it. He couldn't take it, and that was his downfall. Now, Cain Velasquez, not the heaviest hitter, he's probably now coming up against the heaviest hitter in the heavyweight division, probably in the UFC entirely. He is coming up against the heaviest hitter. He cannot back up. He is going to have to face these punches. Well, when I say face these punches, he's going to have to just try it, and he is going to have to use his wrestling. There's no way, in my opinion, that Lesnar can look to try and do a stand-up battle with Mark Hunt, because it'll be over in the first round. It'll be over so quick. It'll be unreal. Right, let's do it two ways, because I can't do one prediction one way or the other. If Lesnar manages to get it to the ground, yes, I can see him finishing it from there. Do I see him knocking him out? No. I would maybe see Lesnar maybe resort to a submission, possibly, or that ground and pound he had against Frank Mir, where Frank Mir couldn't move under the Colossus that was Brock Lesnar, and he just punched his face for a long, long, long time. Maybe something like that could happen. I, in my opinion, don't see that happening. No, fuck it, I am. I think that Mark Hunt's going to take this, and I think Mark Hunt's going to knock Brock Lesnar out. I really do. And I like Brock Lesnar, I really do. But people cannot forget, yes, he's the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar, and all this sort of business. But that's WWE. He's not fighting people here. He's not having to survive in the WWE. He can throw people around and Suplex City. Suplex City isn't happening against Mark Hunt. It just isn't. That's not happening whatsoever. Let's be realistic. Mark Hunt is the more seasoned fighter, possibly has what many would consider a worse record, but not really. 5-3 Brock Lesnar, 12-10. He's got more experience, and he's had a hell of a win streak in the UFC. Obviously had a loss or two as well, but he's got experience. He's been in battles, he's been in wars. He's not afraid to get hit, and I don't think he's afraid to get taken down. His takedown defense isn't too bad compared to Lesnar's takedown accuracy. I think that Mark Hunt's going to take this, and it's going to shock the world, and I think that'll be Brock Lesnar again, back to the WWE, never to return. And I don't think he should have. I really don't think he should have, because it just wasn't necessary. I think Mark Hunt's going to prove a point about himself. I think he's going to take this fight, and it is going to be by knockout, and I think it could be in the first round. That's how I feel about it. How do you guys feel about this fight card? I'm very excited for this fight card. UFC 200, if it's anything like UFC 100, and if it's, then I'm going to be very, very, very happy. I really will be. Let me know what you think, what your predictions are going to be. Am I talking utter shit? Tell me about it. I don't mind. These are all predictions, like my Euro predictions. They're going to be wrong, and most of them are wrong. I don't mind. It's entertainment. It's engaging. I want to hear from you guys as well, so leave a like on the video if you like what I've done today. Subscribe if you are new around here, and I will catch you later.